My boss fired me for job hunting after denying my raises for 3 years. She didn't expect what came next. I stood in her office, still clutching the email that had arrived that morning. The subject line read, Annual Compensation Review. Inside, just 3 words that had become painfully familiar. No raise approved, budget constraints. My boss, Victoria Pierce, leaned back in her leather chair, fingers steepled under her chin. Her expression was something between amusement and contempt. So, you're job hunting now? She asked, her voice dripping with mock disappointment. My stomach dropped. How did she know? I'd been careful, only applying during lunch breaks, using my personal phone. You've been denying my raises for 3 years, I said, keeping my voice steady. What exactly did you expect? Her smile tightened into something sharp and cruel. I expected loyalty. Instead, I got betrayal. She opened a folder on her desk, revealing printed screenshots of my LinkedIn activity. Pack your things. Effective immediately. I stared at her, my mind racing. 3 years of 60-hour weeks. 3 years of arriving early and leaving late. 3 years of building client relationships that kept this company profitable. And this was how it ended. Security will escort you out in 15 minutes, Victoria added, already turning back to her computer. My hands trembled as I packed the contents of my desk into a cardboard box. Family photos. My coffee mug with the faded company logo. The plaque I'd received for outstanding performance 2 years ago, back when Victoria still pretended to value my work. Colleagues walked past without making eye contact. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked relieved it wasn't them being marched out. Victoria strutted past my cubicle, her heels clicking against the tile floor. We'll survive without you, she announced loud enough for everyone to hear. Actually, we'll probably thrive. Her assistant, a quiet woman named Clarissa who'd worked there almost as long as I had, gave me a look I couldn't quite interpret. Half pity, half something else. Warning, maybe? As security appeared to escort me out, Clarissa approached quickly, pretending to help me. With the box, her hand brushed mine, pressing something small and plastic into my palm. Just in case you ever want to know what's really going on here, she whispered so quietly I almost missed it. I closed my fist around the USB drive and nodded. Whatever was on that drive, Clarissa had risked her own job to give it to me. That meant it was important. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, staring at the USB drive. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to move on and forget Victoria Pierce and her toxic company ever existed. But curiosity and 3 years of accumulated anger won out. I inserted the drive. Multiple folders appeared. Expense reports 2021 to 2024. Deleted. Correspondence. And one simply labeled, Do Not Share. My heart pounded as I clicked on the restricted folder. Inside were personnel files, including Mine. I opened a document titled, Termination Justification, Alex Morgan. The creation date stopped me cold. 2 weeks before I'd even started job hunting. 2 full weeks before I'd updated my LinkedIn profile or sent out a single resume. The document outlined reasons for my termination: poor performance, attitude problems, resistance to management direction. All lies, but they were documented lies prepared in advance, creating a paper trail that would protect the company from any wrongful termination. Lawsuit. Victoria hadn't fired me for job hunting. She'd planned to fire me regardless. My job search had just given her a convenient excuse. The betrayal cut deeper than the firing itself. I spent the weekend going through every file on that USB drive. Each discovery made me angrier. I'd stayed through 3 rounds of layoffs, personally training my replacements. I'd worked weekends without overtime pay. I'd canceled vacations when Victoria claimed we had critical deadlines. And this whole time, she'd been documenting false reasons to fire me, building a case against an employee who'd done nothing wrong. The emails were particularly damning. Messages to HR about managing Alex out of the organization. Discussions about minimizing severance obligations by creating cause for termination. Strategic planning about how to redistribute Alex's client relationships before I even knew I was being targeted. I realized I hadn't been fired for disloyalty. I'd been fired for being too loyal to question what was really happening, for being so focused on doing good work that I never looked up long enough to see the knife aimed at my back. But the worst part? I believed her. When she said the company couldn't afford raises, I'd tightened my belt and worked harder. When she said we all needed to sacrifice, I'd sacrificed. Meanwhile, she'd been planning my exit strategy. Monday morning, I dug deeper into the financial files Clarissa had included. What I found made the wrongful termination seem almost trivial by comparison. Invoices to vendors I'd never heard of. Payment authorizations for services that were never rendered. Money flowing to consulting companies that existed only on paper, their addresses, leading to empty offices or residential mailboxes. I cross-referenced the bank account numbers. 3 different shell companies all tied to accounts that shared a name, Pierce Holdings, LLC, Victoria's Family Trust. She'd been embezzling from her own company. Not small amounts either. Over 3 years, nearly $2 million had been funneled through fake vendors into accounts she controlled. Every invoice bore her electronic signature. Every payment had her authorization code. I sat back, stunned. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about justice. Victoria. Pierce had stolen from shareholders, from employees whose raises were denied because of budget constraints that didn't actually exist. She'd fired loyal workers to cover her tracks, eliminating anyone who might look too closely at the numbers. Suddenly, my termination made perfect sense. I'd been asking questions about certain vendors, wondering why we paid premium rates for substandard services, getting too close to the truth. I reached out to an old colleague, Blake Patterson, who'd left the company 6 months earlier. He'd moved to our biggest competitor, Phoenix Solutions, and kept in touch occasionally. When I called him Tuesday morning, he laughed at my story. "She's been doing worse than that," Blake said. "She's been poaching clients under fake company names, then billing our old employer for services those clients never receive." "How do you know?" "Because one of those clients came to Phoenix confused about duplicate invoicing. We traced it back. Victoria created a ghost consulting firm that looks legitimate, approaches clients, claiming to be a subsidiary, then charges them for work our company Actu Ally does. She pockets the difference." My mind reeled. The embezzlement was even more extensive than I'd realized. "Listen," Blake continued, his tone turning serious. "Phoenix has been building a case against her for months. We need someone inside who understands her systems. Help us expose her, and I'll make sure you never have to job hunt again. Full position, Senio our level, equity stake." I thought about Victoria's smug face as she fired me. "What do you need me to do?" We developed a careful plan over the next week. Nothing illegal, nothing that would compromise me legally. Just strategic information sharing and letting Victoria's own paranoia work against her. Step 1. Start subtle rumors through industry channels about Victoria's creative accounting practices. Nothing specific, just enough to make people whisper. Step 2. Wait for her to panic. People who are guilty react differently than people who are innocent. Innocent people call lawyers and demand investigations. Guilty people scramble to hide evidence. Step 3. Document everything that followed. Because when powerful people panic, they make mistakes. They say things they shouldn't. They reveal truths they meant to keep hidden. Blake had connections throughout the industry. Within days, carefully placed comments at networking events and vague social media posts started circulating. Anyone else notice irregularities with Pierce Industries vendor relationships? Interesting accounting practices over there. Wonder how they're managing such high profits with such low overhead? Nothing actionable. Nothing Victoria could sue over. Just whispers designed to make her nervous. Now we waited for her to incriminate herself. By Monday morning, the rumors had apparently reached Victoria. I heard about it through Clarissa, who'd continued feeding me information through encrypted messages. "Emergency all-hands meeting," she texted. Victoria's losing it. I watched the recording Clarissa secretly made later that evening. Victoria stood at the front of the conference room, her usual composure cracking. Her voice was sharp, eyes darting around the room like she expected betrayal from every corner. Someone has been spreading malicious rumors about this company, she announced. Lies about our financial practices. If I find out who's been talking to competitors or the media, there will be immediate termination and legal consequences. Her hands shook as she gripped the podium. We have nothing to hide. Our accounting is completely transparent and above board. Then she made her first mistake. The rumors about Alpine Consulting are completely false. That vendor provides legitimate services. Clarissa's camera caught several executives exchanging confused glances. Alpine Consulting wasn't one of the rumored companies. No one had mentioned it publicly. Victoria had just revealed a vulnerability that nobody had actually accused her of. The seeds of her destruction were being planted by her own paranoid mouth. 2 weeks after my termination, I returned to Pierce Industries. Not as an employee but as a consultant for Phoenix Solutions. We just signed a partnership agreement for a joint technology project, and part of my role involved interfacing with their development team, which meant I had legitimate access to their building, to their conference rooms, and yes, to Victoria's floor. I signed in at the lobby, my visitor badge feeling like both a shield and a weapon. The elevator ride to the executive level felt surreal. The same route I'd taken every day for 3 years, except now I was an outsider with insider knowledge. Victoria was in a meeting when I arrived. Through the glass wall of the conference room, I watched her pause mid-sentence as I walked past. Her face went pale. Her mouth opened, slightly in shock. When her meeting ended, she practically ran into the hallway. You're back. Her voice was strained, trying to sound professional but failing to hide her panic. Briefly, I replied with a calm smile. Phoenix and Pierce Industries are partnering on the Meridian project. I'll be consulting here twice a week for the next 2 months. Just business. Her jaw tightened. She nodded stiffly and retreated to her office, probably already planning how to minimize my access and influence. The partnership gave me opportunities I'd never dreamed of. Blake had thought of everything. As part of the project setup, I helped install new network printers throughout the executive floor. Upgraded models, I explained to the IT team. Better security features. What I didn't mention was the firmware modification Blake's tech team had added. Every document printed on Victoria's office printer was automatically backed up to a secure cloud server. Emails, invoices, memos, financial reports. Everything she thought was private became transparent. It wasn't technically illegal. The printers belonged to Phoenix Solutions, installed as part of our partnership agreement. The data collected was considered joint project documentation. Lawyers had carefully structured everything to be defensible in court. Every day, Victoria printed a little more of her own downfall. Emails discussing how to hide certain transactions. Draft invoices for fake services. Memos about moving money between accounts before audits. She was so focused on appearing normal, on not raising suspicions, that she never questioned the new equipment. She just kept working, kept stealing, kept documenting her crimes without realizing every page was being preserved as evidence. The trap was set. She just didn't know she was already caught in it. 3 weeks into my consulting role, Clarissa sent an urgent message. She's deleting old records. Server purge scheduled for Friday. You need to act fast. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the office. Clarissa looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. She'd been working overtime trying to preserve evidence before Victoria could destroy it. She's panicking, Clarissa said, stirring her coffee nervously. Ever since you came back, she's been paranoid. She's going through old files, redacting documents, removing anything that might look suspicious. Can you delay the server purge? Already tried. IT has direct orders to wipe everything older than 18 months. She pulled out her phone, showing me a screenshot of the deletion schedule. But I made backup copies of the worst files. Banking records, email chains, vendor contracts. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Careful who you trust. I showed it to Clarissa. Her face went white. She knows we're meeting. Someone must have told her. Who else knows? Nobody. I was careful. Unless... She glanced around the coffee shop, suddenly paranoid. Unless she's tracking my phone. We left separately, taking different routes. When I got home that night, I found a folded note, slipped under my apartment door. The handwriting was unfamiliar, probably disguised. Be careful. She knows someone's digging. Don't contact C again. Too risky. I took the warning seriously. No more direct contact with Clarissa. If Victoria was monitoring her communications, I couldn't risk exposing my remaining inside source. Instead, I focused on what I already had. The printer logs continued delivering new evidence. Daily. Blake's team was building a comprehensive case, organizing everything into a timeline that prosecutors could follow. But we needed something bigger, something undeniable. The embezzlement evidence was strong, but white-collar criminals often escaped with light sentences or settlements. We needed Victoria to confess, to say something so damning that no lawyer could explain it away. That opportunity came from an unexpected source. Victoria herself. I received an email Wednesday afternoon. Alex, I think we got off on the wrong foot with your termination. I'd like to clear the air. Dinner Friday night? My treat. Just two professionals having a conversation. Blake read the message and laughed. She's trying to figure out what you know. Or she's going to threaten me to stay quiet. Either way, you're recording everything, right? I smiled. Obviously. Friday night, I met Victoria at an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. I wore a jacket with a microphone disguised as a collar pin, high-quality audio recording that wouldn't be detected by casual observation. Victoria was already seated when I arrived, a bottle of expensive wine open on the table. She'd chosen a corner booth, private and away from other diners. Smart. Fewer witnesses to whatever she planned to say. Thank you for coming, she said, pouring wine into my glass before I could decline. I want to apologize for how things ended between us. I nodded, saying nothing. Let her talk. Let her fill the silence with words she'd regret. The first glass of wine loosened her tongue. By the second, she was speaking more freely than I'd ever heard her. You have to understand, running a company is complicated. Sometimes you make decisions that seem harsh but are necessary for survival. Like firing loyal employees? She waved dismissively. You were asking too many questions about our vendor relationships. It made people uncomfortable. Uncomfortable? Or nervous? Victoria's eyes narrowed. She took another long drink. You should have kept your mouth shut. About Alpine Consulting and Meridian Services. Those relationships are none of your business. There it was. Admission that those vendors were connected to something she wanted hidden. Admission that my questions had threatened her somehow. The microphone captured every word. What exactly should I have kept quiet about? I pressed gently. She leaned forward, wine making her bold. You're not stupid, Alex. You saw the invoices. You noticed the payments. You just didn't understand that sometimes creative accounting is necessary to keep a company profitable. Confession. Clear, recorded, undeniable confession. I left the restaurant and drove straight to Blake's house. We sat in his home office listening to the recording 3 times. This is perfect, Blake said. Clear admission of fraudulent accounting practices. Acknowledgement that she fired you to cover it up. Is it enough for prosecutors? It's enough to start. Combined with the financial records, the printer logs, Clarissa's evidence, we have a comprehensive case. He paused. But let's go bigger. She ruined your career. She deserves to lose more than just her title. He was right. Victoria had destroyed my professional reputation, made me question my worth, forced me to start over from nothing. A simple termination and fraud charge wasn't enough. I sent an edited clip of the audio to Blake. Just Victoria saying, you should have kept your mouth shut about those vendors. Damning but vague enough that people would speculate about what else she'd said. Then I wrote a LinkedIn article. Nothing about Victoria specifically, just a general piece titled, "The Cost of Loyalty in a Corrupt Workplace." I discussed staying at jobs that undervalued you, ignoring red flags because you believed in the mission, sacrificing your well-being for companies that saw you as disposable. I posted it Sunday night. By Monday morning, it had gone viral. The article hit 20,000 views by lunchtime, 50,000 by dinner. People shared it, with comments like, "This is exactly what I experienced and every toxic workplace follows this pattern." Several comments specifically mentioned Pierce Industries. Former employees started sharing their own stories in the comments section. Pattern of denied raises despite record profits. Mysterious vendor relationships. Executives living lavishly while claiming budget constraints. Victoria called me Tuesday morning, her voice shaking with rage. "You think you're clever? Writing vague articles that everyone knows are about me. I didn't mention you or your company once," I replied calmly. "If people are making connections, maybe you should ask yourself why. You're trying to destroy me."
No, Victoria.
"I'm just sharing my experience. Freedom of speech and all that. This isn't over." "I know." I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. "It's just getting started." I hung up and checked my email. Blake had sent a message. Anonymous tips sent to company auditors. They're opening an envies. I hung up and checked my email. Blake had sent a message. Anonymous tips sent to company auditors. They're opening an investigation by end of week. Within hours, Victoria was shredding documents. I knew because the office printer logs showed multiple scans and deletions. Watching her panic in real time was satisfying in ways I hadn't anticipated. The panic escalated quickly. Wednesday morning, Clarissa sent a coded message through a burner email account. "She's destroying everything. Files, hard drives, backup servers. Like watching someone commit evidence tampering in real time." But Victoria didn't understand modern technology as well as she thought. Digital evidence doesn't disappear just because you delete it. IT forensics can recover almost anything from servers and hard drives. And every document she scanned before shredding was captured by our modified printer system. She was creating a perfect timeline of consciousness of guilt. Every deleted file, every shredded document, every panicked attempt to cover her tracks just made the case against her stronger. Thursday morning, she called me again. This time she was crying. "You don't understand what they'll do to me if this comes out," she sobbed. "My career, my reputation, everything I've built." "You mean everything you stole?" I corrected gently. "I didn't steal. I just redirected resources. That's what executives do."
No, Victoria.
"That's what criminals do." I paused, letting my words sink in. "You should have thought about consequences before you embezzled $2 million. Before you fired people to cover your crimes. Before you destroyed lives to protect your SEC rets." "Please," she whispered. "We can work something out. I'll pay you whatever you want. I don't want your money. I want justice." I hung up and immediately called Blake. "She just tried to bribe me." "Did you record it?" "Obviously." He laughed. "Attempted bribery of a witness. That's another charge. She really doesn't know when to stop digging." Friday morning, Clarissa officially filed a whistleblower complaint with the State Attorney General's office. She named me as a supporting witness and provided all the evidence she'd collected over the past months. My hands shook as I signed the formal statement. 3 years of mistreatment, lies, denied raises, and systematic fraud, finally exposed in official legal documentation. Page after page detailing Victoria's crimes, supported by bank records, emails, invoices, recorded confessions. The Attorney General's office acted quickly. When financial fraud involves amounts over $1 million, especially with clear evidence, prosecutors move fast. They see it as an easy win, good publicity, and deterrent to other white-collar criminals. By Monday, the story broke. A financial newspaper I'd never heard of published the headline, "Tech Executive Accused of Multi-Million-Dollar Embezzlement Scheme." Victoria's photograph was everywhere. Professional headshot from the company website, now associated with fraud and theft. The article detailed the fake vendors, the shell companies, the elaborate scheme to funnel money into her personal accounts. My phone rang. Victoria, calling from a blocked number. You destroyed me, she sobbed when I answered. You systematically destroyed everything I built.
No, irrepliately.
I hit record. You destroyed yourself. The Pierce Industries board called an emergency meeting for Wednesday morning. Blake had connections with one of the board members, someone who'd been suspicious of Victoria's management for years. We received an invitation to attend as potential witnesses. The boardroom felt different now. I'd been in this space before, presenting project updates, receiving those meaningless performance awards. But now I sat in the back row, watching Victoria squirm as she tried to defend herself. These accusations are false, she announced, her voice lacking its usual confidence. I've been set up by disgruntled former employees who wanted revenge for legitimate terminations. The board chairman, an elderly man named Harrison Cole, raised his hand for silence. Ms. Pierce, we've reviewed the evidence provided by the Attorney General's office. The bank records alone are damning. Those can be faked, Victoria insisted. Your electronic signatures can't be faked, Harrison replied. Neither can your voice on recorded admissions. He nodded to the AV technician who played the restaurant conversation. Victoria's voice filled the room, slurred slightly from wine but perfectly clear. You should have kept your mouth shut about those vendors. Creative accounting is necessary to keep a company profitable. The silence that followed was deafening. Board members looked at each other, expressions ranging from shock to disgust. One woman in the corner actually started clapping slowly, her applause echoing in the quiet room. That's for the whistleblowers, she said, looking directly at me. Thank you for your courage. The vote was unanimous. Victoria Pierce was terminated as CEO, effective immediately. Security was called to escort her from the building, collect her access badges, and ensure she removed only personal items from her office. I watched from the lobby as she was walked out, carrying a small cardboard box. The same humiliating exit she'd forced on me 3 months earlier, now reflected back at her. Her eyes were red from crying. Her perfect makeup was smudged. Her designer suit seemed to hang on her like a costume that no longer fit. She looked back once as security guided her toward the door. Our eyes met across the crowded lobby. In that moment, I saw recognition, understanding. She knew exactly how this felt because she'd done it to me first. You set me up, she said, her voice barely audible over the lobby noise.
No, irraplia, stop incluse.
I didn't set you up. I just documented what you'd already done. You handed me the pieces. I just arranged them where people could see the picture. Security continued moving her toward the exit. She didn't resist. There was nothing left to fight for. Her career was over. Her reputation destroyed. Criminal charges pending. Everything she'd schemed and stolen and lied to build crumbled in days. Outside, photographers waited. The perp walk had already begun. The board asked me to stay after Victoria left. Harrison Cole approached me personally, his expression apologetic. Mr. Morgan, on behalf of Pierce Industries, I want to apologize for how you were treated. Your termination was unjust, and your contributions to this company were substantial. Thank you, I said carefully, unsure where this was going. We'd like to offer you a position, Chief Operating Officer, Victoria's old role, though obviously with significantly more oversight and accountability measures in place. He named a salary that was triple what I'd been making before. The offer was tempting. Poetic justice, taking over the position of the person who'd fired me. But I thought about the culture Victoria had created, the fear and suspicion that would linger long after she was gone. I appreciate the offer, I said slowly, but I'm done working for people who confuse power with respect. I've learned that loyalty should be earned, not demanded. Harrison looked disappointed but nodded. I understand, but we'd still like to retain you as a consultant. We need help rebuilding trust with clients, reforming our financial systems. Name your rate. I thought about my bills, my uncertain future, the job market I'd been thrown into. Triple my former salary, 6-month contract, and I want Clarissa promoted to Director of Operations. Done. Over the next month, Victoria's carefully constructed life continued falling apart. Her LinkedIn profile disappeared overnight. The luxury car she'd been leasing, paid for with embezzled funds, was repossessed. Her apartment, which she'd bought with stolen money, was seized as part of asset forfeiture. Clarissa, now officially in leadership, sent me updates occasionally. "She's completely vanished from the industry," she told me over coffee one afternoon. "No one will hire her. Her professional network disappeared overnight." "How are things at Pierce Industries?" "Better. Harrison promoted several people who'd been overlooked under Victoria's management. The culture is changing. People actually seem happy to be at work again." She smiled. "That consulting contract you negotiated for me changed my life. Thank you. You earned it. You risked everything to help expose her." Blake's company, Phoenix Solutions, was thriving. The partnership with Pierce Industries had brought in major contracts. Blake was promoted to senior VP, partly because of the successful collaboration. "You should have taken that COO position," he told me during lunch. "You'd be running the whole company by now." "Maybe, but I'm done letting other people control my career." I'd started exploring independent consulting opportunities, building my own client base, answering only to myself. Felt good. Scary, uncertain, but good. 6 weeks after Victoria's termination, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line, just a message.
"I'm sorry."
I thought crushing people made me strong. I was wrong. I stared at the words for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it immediately, to refuse her the satisfaction of acknowledgement. But another part, the part that remembered she was human despite everything, recognized genuine remorse when I saw it. For the first time since this started, I actually believed her. Prison awaiting trial had apparently given Victoria time to think about her choices, their consequences, the people she'd hurt. I didn't reply. Some apologies deserved silence, not forgiveness. What she'd done couldn't be undone with a simple "I'm sorry." The careers she'd destroyed, the lives she'd damaged, the trust she'd betrayed. Those wounds would take years to heal if they ever did. But I saved the email instead of deleting it. Not as forgiveness. As reminder that even people who seem irredeemable sometimes recognize their mistakes, even if recognition comes too late to matter. 3 months after my firing, I sat in a new office. Not at Pierce Industries or Phoenix Solutions, but in a small suite I'd rented downtown. Morgan Consulting Group, my own company, small but growing. The view from my window showed the same city skyline I used to dream beneath when I worked for Victoria. But everything looked different now. Brighter, full of possibility instead of limitation. Revenge hadn't fixed me. The satisfaction of watching Victoria fall, of seeing justice served, of reclaiming my professional reputation hadn't erased 3 years of mistreatment. The scars were still there, the self-doubt she'd planted, the questioning of my worth. But revenge had freed me from needing her approval, freed me from believing that success meant climbing someone else's ladder. Freed me from the fear that speaking truth would destroy my career. I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemy. It's building something better than what they took from you. Creating success they can't diminish, relationships they can't poison, confidence they can't shake. My phone buzzed. New client inquiry. A tech startup looking for operational consulting. Growing fast and needing systems to scale responsibly and ethically. I smiled and opened my calendar to schedule the meeting. For months after everything began, Pierce Industries released a press statement. "We thank Alex Morgan for his integrity in reporting financial irregularities and his continued consulting support during our restructuring period. His professionalism exemplifies the values this company was founded on." The statement was shared across industry publications, LinkedIn networks, professional forums. My reputation, which Victoria had tried to destroy with false termination justifications, was publicly restored. Former colleagues reached out, apologizing for staying silent during my firing. Recruiters called with opportunities. Other companies facing similar challenges requested consultations about building ethical cultures and transparent financial systems. Victoria's attempt to erase me from the industry had backfired spectacularly. Now I was more visible, more respected, more successful than I'd ever been under her management. I closed my laptop and looked at the coffee mug on my desk. The same mug I'd packed when security escorted me out. It felt like a lifetime ago now, though barely a season had passed. For 3 years, Victoria had silenced my worth, made me question my value, convinced me that loyalty meant accepting mistreatment. Now, my silence was the loudest thing she'd ever hear. No angry emails. No vindictive social media posts. No public gloating. Just quiet success, steady growth, and the knowledge that I'd survived her worst and built something better from the ashes. The trial was scheduled for next month. Victoria had refused multiple plea deals, insisting she'd done nothing wrong despite overwhelming evidence. Her lawyers probably told her that stubbornness would lead to harsher sentencing, but pride made people blind to reality. I wouldn't attend the trial. Prosecutors had my testimony, my evidence, my recordings. They didn't need me sitting in the courtroom watching Victoria's final downfall. That chapter was closed. I was writing new ones now. Clarissa sent a final message. Thank you for giving me the courage to speak up. You changed my life. Blake called to celebrate landing a major contract. None of this happens without you. You're the real hero in this story. Harrison emailed about extending my consulting contract. The board unanimously agreed, you've been instrumental in our recovery. But the message that meant most came from someone unexpected. My father, who I'd barely spoken to during the chaos of the past months, sent a simple text. Proud of you, son. Not for the revenge. For choosing integrity when lying would have been easier. That was it. That was the closure I needed. I'd spent 3 years being told I wasn't good enough, smart enough, valuable enough. I'd been denied raises, dismissed, humiliated, fired. I'd been targeted for elimination before I even knew I was in danger. But I'd survived. More than survived, I'd thrived. Victoria Pierce thought firing me would erase her problems. Instead, she'd freed me to become the person I was always meant to be. Someone who valued integrity over advancement. Someone who chose truth over convenience. Someone who understood that real strength isn't crushing others, it's building something they can't destroy. I closed my laptop, looked out at the city skyline one last time, and smiled. For 3 years, she'd silenced my worth. Now, my silence was the loudest thing she'd ever hear.